And we welcome you into another episode of Borderline with Bernie. I'm Jeff, and thank you, as always, for listening to yet another all-new episode here of Borderline, episode 93, as
Wow.
we get you set for all kinds of stuff coming up. We've got the draft coming up, which is going to be huge, and I finally got a chance to start kind of diving in to the draft, so that's going to be kind of fun. I still can't believe, I still think it's so cool, and I've been trying to tweet about it a little bit, just kind of get the word out there. But
Yeah.
it was funny to. By the way, I didn't realize that we were going to be on CBS this past Saturday until I remember you had told me last week. I think maybe off the air last week that you said it was coming up on Saturday,
Yep.
and so that was the first that I'd heard that was going to be on Saturday. And then sure enough, I was watching football because I was tweeting back and forth or texting back and forth to Trey about the Clemson game. And all of a sudden, Stacy sends me a text. He said, "Hey, Teams looks great." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't realize it was even on right now." So I ended up watching about the last hour of it, I think. And it looked and sounded great. I mean, it really did. So I went to Twitter to see what all the comments were. And you know, it just proves the point that I tried to say to Stacy and to Kat and to Trey and to everyone who works for the ACL. Like, we have to remember as a brand that we are so new, right?
Yep.
Like to us, we all know who Jamie Graham is, right? Jamie Graham, fine. We fall asleep talking about Jamie Graham so much. We fall asleep talking about Jay Rubin so much. You know, these great players. We have to remember, we can't be so short-sighted to think that everyone just knows the sport like we do. I went to Twitter. I couldn't believe the number of people that were tweeting that were still saying, "Wow, what? Cornhole on TV? This is actually a sport?"
Sure.
There are
Sure.
so many people out there that have no idea what we're doing. So, you know, when we're on national TV, I know a lot of the ACL people are probably like, "God, Jeff talks about that all the time." There's a reason I talk about that kind of stuff all the time. It's called Play the Hits. There's a reason why the Rolling Stones. There's a reason why Matchbox 20. There's a reason why Michael McDonald
Hold on.
play the same songs.
Hold on. Don't you dare put Matchbox 20 in the same sentence with the Rolling Stones.
But there's a reason. There's a reason why they play the hits, called playing the hits. I don't care what the Elton John. I don't care. There's a reason why there's a saying in the industry: play the hits. Because two reasons. One, that's what everyone wants to hear, and secondly, you never know when someone is listening to you or watching you for the first time, and that's especially true for the ACL. You know, we are going to have new viewers watching the sport, as we did this past Saturday, all the time. You know, so if we sound like we're repeating ourselves, if you watch every single broadcast, we probably are. You know,
Yeah.
But it's got to be done early on because of the. I mean, literally hundreds and hundreds of people texting saying, you know, what is this? Why is this on TV? I didn't know this was a thing. We have to try and win those people. It's a big part of the growth of the sport. So,
especially when we're on ABC. I mean, especially when we're on CBS.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's national linear network. We're going to get people that simply aren't watching us when we're on ESPN2 or get shifted over to ESPN News. That is going to be the first time they're seeing us. And those are people that are tuning in. They're flipping around wanting to watch football, period. Right.
Yes.
And I think that was a shot from Look, I think that was a huge day for us, by the way. I think that was CBS saying, I don't know. I'm saying, I think from CBS perspective and maybe our perspective was like, all right, let's see what your lead in is for our college football day. You know, we're going to give you this slot. And we want to see if you're better than the infomercials we've been running for the past 5 years, right? I mean, that's a huge shot for us, and hopefully it turned out well. I mean, I looked over. I thought it went well. I mean, obviously, if everyone looked at that broadcast and compared it to the other broadcast of that same event, they'll see that it was highly edited. And I think that's also a part of what might be the future. You might not see 100% of the action and may get to what you've been talking about for a long time, you know, more stories on the players, maybe a little bit more stuff going on instead of every bag thrown in a match. Now, I know the cornhole heads are going to be all over that, right? That's travesty, ruining the sport, no integrity, blah, 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 all that. Well, to your point, we have to do something to get more people than just the cornhole heads watching our sport, period. Period.
And that's why we make comparisons when we talk about the sport
Yes.
to other sports, to the NCAA tournament, to baseball, to
Yep.
football. Anytime we can make a comparison, we are making the sport relatable.
Yeah.
And it's a huge part of a growing sport, of a growing young sport, is making it relatable. So that when someone's watching, they're like, "Oh, okay, I get that. Yeah, so this is kind of like the NCAA tournament." Yes, yes.
Yep.
But
Someone.
but again, it looked great. It sounded great. It had a terrific finish. The broadcast quality was really good. Like it's
Yep.
amazing in live TV when you watch. And now a lot of people at home aren't going to notice this, but when you watch football broadcasts, there's some things that go on behind the scenes. The lighting might not be right. The microphones might not be right. There's always little, I mean, unless you're watching Monday Night Football, where it's always perfect. When you're watching some other regionally televised broadcasts, there's little slip ups here and there that you see. Our broadcast looked really good. I got three texts from friends of mine right away saying, "Dude, this production quality really looks good." So I mean,
100%.
So that was.
By the way, being involved in this now, and I'm sure people like Kat and some others that are very involved behind the scenes, probably now when they're watching sports or anything else for that matter, they're noticing every little thing, right? You'll notice a big mistake every now and then from a network, but now I'm noticing the little ones. And I watched a game that maybe 5 other people watched on Saturday night, North Carolina, Pittsburgh. And the ACC network just threw that one in the tank, man. It was awful. It was awful.
Was
and
it?
I mean, they had all kinds of issues that were maybe not their fault. Some technology issues, maybe the weather, the remnants of that hurricane or tropical storm were rolling through just a little bit east. Maybe that had a lot to do with the feed issues, but it just seemed like a bad night for everybody. And like, it's so funny. A lot of that stuff I would never notice before.
I know. It's hard.
It would have gone right over my head. And now I see it. I'm like, oh man, somebody's getting screamed at in the truck right now. So
live TV is hard. It really is.
No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I noticed, and people will think, I've brought it up to the ACL many times, and it falls on deaf ears. The only thing that is weird about our broadcasts is that they never show Trey and I, or Anthony and I. It's just weird. Like I probably get more texts about that than anything else. It's like, why don't they ever put you guys on TV? And I think I do think it's weird that they never show the broadcast. And you know what?
When do you show the broadcasters though in other sports?
Oh, they show them all the time, Bernie. They go to the booth.
I watch those games all the time. They show them beforehand and maybe coming back from halftime.
Yeah, and they'll do little look-ins during the broadcast as well. I've brought up many examples to everybody. Yeah. They do it a lot. I mean, you can't tell me you don't watch Monday Night Football and see Chris Collinsworth all the time.
Yeah,
he's on all the time. I mean, they go up to the booth with Tirico and Collinsworth a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, they do in college football. Trust me, I watch as much football as you do. Now the ones where they don't, well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, even watching Coastal Carolina, watching their broadcast, because they brought down Matt Berry and their ESPN guys for the game last week. When they switched the game to ESPN, they bring down Matt Berry, a couple of the contract guys. So they brought in Matt Berry, and I can't remember the coach who was they had them on. I would say they had them on at least 4 or 5 times during the broadcast. So
would that be between quarters? So basically lead in and halftime lead in. And then you've got quarter leads in. I mean, is that essentially what they're doing? And then the end of the game, you have your breakdown.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and then, or where I see it, where I like it best. I don't want to bore people with this. Where I see it, where I like it best is when you add value. Like, and you can't tell me with Joe. Well, you can't tell me when you're watching Joe Buck and Troy Aikman that you'd never see those guys on TV. They're on TV all the time too.
Yeah, they give them.
Yeah. I mean, Brad, even the old guys like Brad Nessler, when he's doing a game, an SEC game, they put those guys on TV all the time. I'm talking major network. I'm not talking ESPN Plus broadcast.
Right,
for ESPN Plus broadcasts, like when I'm doing, something for Coastal, we're on in the beginning, maybe on again at halftime. But when you're on a network broadcast, you probably want to put your broadcasters on. And trust me, I mean, if it was Evan doing these broadcasts, I would say the same thing. I mean, you want to show your broadcasters, but where I like to do it best is, and I've used this example with Stacy and with Matt and Trey, and Kat, I mean, many times, right? It falls on deaf ears, but whatever. But in baseball is where it really works good. because they'll go up to the booth and they'll literally, like, alongside, whoever, whoever the former player is, I'm the play-by-play guy. And
Right.
hey, earlier in the game, we were talking about a guy who's got a great slider or something like that. And then, yeah, like, let's say it's John Smoltz. He will literally show you how this guy will hold the baseball, or like throwing a knuckle curve. There's a lot of people who don't know how to throw a knuckle curve. You literally put your finger, I don't have baseball. You literally put your finger down on the baseball so your knuckle is touching it. That's a knuckle curve. You can really get some good snap off of it. And same thing. I mean, go to Trey and I, and then, hey, we were talking earlier about a roll bag, and Trey could literally have the bag in his hand, and I mean, you can add value by going to the broadcast booth. But again, it's another thing that makes the sport look big time. And it just does. It gives it an authentic feel to it. You get to know the broadcasters. It's relatable, like I've talked about. I mean, that's one of the great things of why baseball,
I think it
is so good, because you develop that relationship with your broadcasters. But whatever.
I think it would be great for, especially like you're talking about, to make it analogous, to have Trey talk about what a butterfly grip is on a bag, and talk about how they deliver, and the way that you inflect your wrist to throw a roll bag, the way that you kind of invert it a little bit when you deliver the bag. And so for people to actually see it, because he can say that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he can, he can make a comment and say it, but is it really going to do anything?
Yeah.
But for, like, just talking on air, no one can see it. It's hard. But if you could actually show him do it, I see your point there.
And when you show the broadcasters, it shows legitimacy. It shows that you're there. I mean,
Yes.
there was really a lot of pushback by the players, by the coaches, by fans when they started doing these Remy broadcasts. You can kind of tell when the broadcasters aren't there and they're just watching it on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody can, but you want to know that they're there, that they're bringing you into the action. And all I'm saying is, if we're watching ESPN Plus football games, no, you're not seeing the broadcasters. But if you were on a major network, if you were on CBS, if you're on ESPN and you watch those games, you are seeing broadcasters. Maybe all the time is a bad description of it, but you're seeing them multiple times.
Sure.
During the broadcast, and then even on the sideline reporters, and I brought this up before too. Let's say, let's get on to Bernie on the sidelines. You'll do an on-camera hit in the beginning. You'll do an on-camera hit with the coaches and at halftime. But then if we go to you during the broadcast, you'll see a little picture on the corner down here.
Yeah.
Of you. So we may only hear your voice during the, but we see a little picture. Bernie Neighbors, sideline analyst, ESPN, whatever. I don't know. Just a little something that I thought could improve it.
Why not have obviously and this is something that people at home will never understand. Every cord that gets added is money added to a broadcast. Every camera, every person responsible for that camera, it adds to cost of a broadcast. So why not have a stationary camera in front of your desk?
Well, what we do at Coastal? Just a GoPro. It's just a little camera that it stays there all the time. We do the open with it. We do halftime hits with it. We do whatever.
Right.
It just stays there. So anytime they want to go to us, if we're joking around, having a good time and laughing and talking about something, that's relevant to the game, boom, you put the broadcasters on. It just shows personality, relatability, legitimacy. It just adds to the broadcast. It's just weird that we don't have it. And the fact that I get, text messages all the time from people saying, why don't they ever show you guys? It just shows it's awkward. You want to have that relatability with your broadcast, in my opinion.
I hear you. I could definitely see the worth, especially like you were talking about in baseball, where they're showing you how to throw a pitch. Trey literally showing you, or Anthony, whichever broadcast it may be, hey, this is how you hold that bag. I could tell you, but you're not really going to know, because at home you're just grabbing it in your hand and kind of just tossing it forward. You don't realize there's an actual way to do this, just like there's a way to grip a golf club, just like there's a way to grip a tennis racket, just like there's a way to shoot a basketball, just like there's a way to throw a football, right? There's a way to do this properly.
Yeah.
And I think that would definitely help. I'm with you.
And don't get me wrong, by the way, this is going to come off sounding probably very egotistical, and trust me. Trust me, I'm telling you, Bernie, I don't care if you guys still had Evan doing the play-by-play, I'd be saying the same thing. And I'm also not saying that Trey and I are Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I'm just saying that when you have two of your top spokesmen, of the entire league and of the sport, when you see them and you see them on air, and you see that they're there, and you see their passion. It's different than just hearing their voices. So it's
100%.
just good. It's just good to go to them every once in a while. But so to move on beyond that the other thing that we're starting to do is that makes it look really good. And we've touched on this before, and I want to talk about it this week. Is player identification.
Mm-hmm.
That was another big pushback that I got, and still get, from friends of mine and a lot of people who watch, is the fact they can't figure out who's playing. And again, this goes back to our point at the beginning, at the top of the show. We know Jamie Graham, we know Cheyenne Bubenheim, we know all these players, right? Frank Modlin, we see them all the time. But when someone's tuning on for the first time, you want the fans to know who they're watching. When you turn on a football game, you instantly know which team is Syracuse and which team is North Carolina. They basically do everything to tell you. Everything matches. The jerseys match the score bug. Everything for North Carolina on the screen is baby blue. Everything for Syracuse is blue or orange. Normally it's orange. Immediately. And so, that's why this year, there's going to be a push, and maybe there's been already, but I know there's going to be a push by the league to make sure that we get some sort of symbiotic look to jerseys, bags, and then the bug on the bottom, so that when someone turns on the TV right away and it's Nico Morales against Eric Davis, you will instantly know, Nico's wearing the black jersey, throwing the black bags or black and red bags, and he's the black and red, score. His name is in black and red on the other, and Eric Davis is wearing yellow, throwing yellow bags, and he's yellow, whatever. There's gonna be, and I know there's gonna be growing pains on that, and there's gonna be baby steps to that. There's a lot of cost that's involved in something like that, but the league is working towards that, and you could see it even in the graphics on the broadcast on Saturday. And even just the graphics matching the jersey, just that even helps to try and figure out who's playing. Because trust me, the players, if you're on TV, you guys, I mean, you and I talked about this last week, Bernie, and players, I'm speaking to you. You all know how difficult it is to get sponsorships. We're now having players leave the sport because they can't find sponsorships. Well, how the hell are you going to get sponsorships if someone turns on the TV and they don't know who you are?
Right.
They need to know who you are.
I agree.
So don't fight back on this. I would embrace this and be seen. I mean, that's the reason why college football players now are fighting for exposure, because of NIL. They want more NIL money. They're not going to get NIL money if, when you turn on the TV, you can't tell who's playing for who and who's wearing what jersey. So I mean, don't fight on this. It's only good for you guys.
I agree. It's funny because part of it is, there is an ownership issue with the ACL with essentially the color schemes. And I think you have to get away from that if you want the players to be more visible and to be more about the players, right? Because you have to get away from that jersey. And then you have to go to the bag manufacturers and say, look, for broadcast, if you're going to be sponsoring a player, they're going to need these colors, right? Because the bag manufacturers want to make all these crazy designs, and the players want to play some of these weirder looking bags, and they're just not getting the overall thing. And by the way, if you're watching our show, you obviously have some sort of interest in cornhole. But if you ever look at the numbers of a broadcast, even on ESPN Plus or ESPN2, you're getting hundreds of thousands of people watching, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you take the nitty-gritty core community of cornhole that play in tournaments, that really truly invest their time to travel and play, that's only about that's what, 50,000, 75,000. So if we're getting hundreds of thousands of viewers minimum, that means a lot of people are watching it for the very first time, and we have to get.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's this climb out of the backyard. And there's still a pushback against it, which is crazy to me. It's just, no, this is how it's always been done. No, this is how. Too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to.
And there will be. You'll probably always have that.
And it's just, we've got to get buy-in from everybody, and including the ACL, for that, because to make players truly identifiable, they all can't be wearing the same color, in my opinion.
And they can't. And more importantly, they can't all be wearing all different colors. You know, I mean that
don't
was
even
that
get me
was
started. Don't even get me started on that. Yeah,
that was one of the big thing. I mean, that was one of the big things is that we would have, you know, and again, it was just it wasn't done intentionally to fool the viewer. You know, there'd be somebody who just happened to be wearing a blue jersey, right? And they're throwing green bags, and the bar on the graphic was red, right? And so this person wearing a blue jersey throwing green bags, they throw green bags all the time. They're just wearing a blue jersey because they just happen to, you know, the jersey just happens to have blue on it, right? But it just so happens that the player they're thrown against, maybe he or she's wearing a black jersey, but they're throwing, you know, blue bags. So now you got someone that's wearing a blue, you know, jersey or a white jersey, and the person you're playing against is throwing that same color bag, and nothing matched. Nothing
Yeah,
matched on
problem
the
is,
TV.
yeah, the problem is with the bags, especially, can't be similar in color. Obviously, that was from day one. Can't
Yeah.
have those be almost the same color. And then two, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the bags on the board. So you may know the jersey color. And so if you mark that player by their jersey color, well, the bag might be like, it's so, we've got to find a way to get everyone doing the same thing. And that becomes even harder, because
Yeah.
then you're getting other companies involved, not just the ACL. Then you're going to bag manufacturers and saying, look, you have to make this color. You know, your players have to have this. You know what I mean? It becomes so
Yeah.
vast in what you're trying to do. But I
Well,
agree with you. They have to find a way to make it more identifiable. And
yeah.
I think the bags are. They have to find a way to make the bag colors. I don't know. I
Yep.
don't know the solution. I wish I did.
Well, it's going to be like I said, it's going to be baby steps. And you know, and Kat and I had many discussions about this behind the scenes last year. And basically the at the end of the day, we we basically decided that the bag color is probably the of least importance right now. Like let the creativity throw with the bags. Yes, they need to be different on the broadcast. You can't have similar colors because then the viewer gets lost. What is really more important is if I'm wearing a blue jersey and I'm standing, like when you watch cornhole, this might be a little bit tough to describe here on an audio podcast. But when you're watching TV, when you're watching cornhole on TV, you're going to have a player on the top side of your TV screen and a player on the bottom side of your TV screen, right? Like let's say Jamie's playing against Frank, right? So you're going to have like Jamie up here, right? For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see. I mean, Jamie's going to be kind of that top of the screen. You got the board in the middle and you got Frank on the bottom, right? So you wanna put in the bug, you want to put Jamie's name on top and Frank's name on the bottom. And whatever jersey color Jamie's wearing, you want that bug to be that jersey. You want that. So
I
if
think in
Jamie's wearing
doubles, you're talking about doubles, because in
no, in
singles
single and
in singles they're playing like we are right now. They're playing next to each other.
yeah, but not on TV. That's what I mean. It's hard to describe. Think about when you're watching
I've
on
seen it on
TV.
TV. Yeah.
Yeah, you know when we show. Yeah, I mean when you show it depends on what TV angle, right?
Yeah.
But when you do the top side TV angle, kind of looking down, there's always one player that's kind of on the top, one on the bottom. You're right. When the camera angle is going straight at them, you're showing this. But on TV,
Right.
when they go to the jib camera and they do kind of that overhead camera, you're going to have one
Right.
player that kind of looks like they're kind of on that top side and one that's on that bottom side, and you want to correspond that to the bug and also
Sure.
the jersey color. So if Jamie's wearing a bluish jersey and he's on that top side, you know, looking down on the jib, you want to make sure you got a blue bug for him. I mean, again, it's just behind the scenes, pull back the curtain, little
but do
TV
we get
minutia,
away?
but it helps.
Do we get away from the ACL black and red, white and red? Right.
Well,
Because
that's what they're talking.
that's
Yeah,
all you get right
that's what
now.
that's what they're talking about doing, is maybe allowing some creativity to the jersey. But I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really large topic.
It really is.
I think it's necessary for the growth of the sport, for
I
player
agree.
identification. But yeah, there's a lot that needs to be discussed about it, because I know Stacy wants to try and keep everything red, black, and white, right? For the
Of course he
league.
does. Yeah, he wants it's all part of the brand, right? That's what the brand's colors are. He wants the brand to be seen.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm with you. The players have to be seen at some point too, and the players would love that. But the players at some point are going to have to understand. Find a girlfriend, a mom, a friend, somebody that knows how to match colors. because some of the stuff these dudes are wearing, and it's just like, come on, man. Like none of, I mean, it's just not even close. Come on, figure it out. You don't have to be like, you're not some metrosexual guy if you can actually match colors. You're just normal. I don't know. It just, I've seen some pretty crazy colors thrown together.
Yeah,
because they want, see, to your point, they want to be interesting. They want to be, that way. Look at his crazy pants, right? Like
yeah,
that's
they want to be Ricky Fowler,
right?
Yeah,
I get it.
And if Noah Wooten shows up wearing fluorescent orange pants and shirt, then I want that bug at the bottom to say Noah Wooten, and I want it to be fluorescent orange behind him, so you instantly know that's Noah Wooten.
Yeah, but will that ever be allowed?
That's up to the league. So
that's
it's growing pains of the sport, player identification, sponsorships, money. I mean, it's all these, it's all these things that need to be discussed.
I would love to be in the room for those fights because I know exactly what Stacy's going to say. I mean, I would love to be in the room for those arguments. That would be fun.
Yeah,
because I would just, me being me, I'd just throw something in there just to kind of make everybody angry and yell at each other. Yeah,
well,
but what about this?
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if you want all the colors to be red, black, and white, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, you just have to set it up that way. So Noah's wearing a black jersey, and Brett Guy is wearing a different color jersey, and whatever those jersey colors correspond to the graphic below, so that you know which player is which.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, and to international, for if you're a soccer fan, the Premier League, you have your home kit, as they call it, right? This is what you wear at home and your colors you wear at home. The away colors could be crazy.
Yeah,
that's seriously true too. You see teams wearing all kinds of different colors when they're playing away. So maybe we do more than just black and white. I don't know. That's interesting. It's a fun thought.
Yeah, big discussion, which could lead to a lot of creativity. But again, I don't know. I'm not privy to a lot. All I know is that it's
you got to know who's who.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing as a sports fan. When you turn on the TV, you want to know who's playing and what the score is, right?
Yep.
And we got to make it as easy. We have to make it as easy as possible for the viewer at home to relate to our sport and instantly know what's going on when they turn it on. So, man, that was a huge soapbox. I didn't mean to talk about that for a half an hour.
Look, I think the way that we do the scorebug needs to be done differently. And I'm not talking about just necessarily the colors. It just seems to me that that's set up to fail. The way that it's almost done on a cell phone. I mean, that can't be okay.
Oh, yeah. You mean like that, the actual logistics of how it's done. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the person's fault. I mean, you're just asking for trouble, technologically speaking. I don't know another way to do it, mind you, but like, that just seems to me just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
But that's
I mean, there's I mean, that for sure is a growing pain, and just the technology, trying to build the technology to make that easier. But I think the reason why a lot of these things have stuck out to me is that I instantly went from broadcasting cornhole, boom, right into football. I mean, no break whatsoever. Right. So it's like driving an SUV and then driving a sports car. You instantly, feel all the differences. And because I literally went from California, got home, and then, a week and a half later, I've got my first football broadcast. It made me feel and see all the differences. And I'm like, wow, there's some really basic things in cornhole that we've got to get right, so that when someone turns on the TV, they know what they're watching and they know what the score is.
Yeah.
Some basic things that I think we could do better. So
that's a good one. That's a good one, man. Way to go. It's almost
30 minutes. I truly didn't mean to talk about it that long. I do want to talk about the draft, though. I'm really looking forward to that. So again, for those of you who do listen to the show, casual cornhole fans, so the draft is back, our second year of teams here with all 16 teams from 16 different regions. So the captain, it's somewhat of a keeper league, which I love. Right, there's 16 players on each team. So the captain chose 5 players, and then the draft will be 10 rounds. You get to choose 10 different players. So the problem is, I shouldn't say problem, but now the challenge is going to be, is that now you're going to have 16 teams that all have 16 or that all have 6 players pre-filled.
Yep.
So that obviously takes away whatever the math is. That takes away a substantial number of the top players in the world. So now you're going to really dig deep into all the stats and to relationships to figure out how you're going to fill the remaining 10 spots on the roster. So
Yes.
that's now the big question out there is, now with 16 teams all pre-filling 6, now you get down to some pretty I don't know. I would say some names that really kind of stick out who are not rostered. And I think the big question now is who would be your first round draft pick, your first selection overall, and that is really difficult. I mean,
I don't think it is.
I've got mine, but I'm sure everyone can probably guess mine.
You're forgetting that the U18s are now able to play.
Yeah,
right. And so that changes a lot because they haven't been able to play. So that puts.
But there's so many good ones. So how many?
Well, that's my point. That's a big amount of your top 40.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of players that haven't been able to play that are now. So I think the first round is fairly doable, maybe even 2 rounds. But like you're saying, you get to the 3rd round, you as the team captain, look, these are people that play in this sport and they know a lot more than we do about the sport. Yeah. I've already heard from a couple of them like, man, it's really tough. Because you may have played against them a few times, especially if they're not from your region, right? You're not going to play against them in blind draws. You're not going to play against them in local tournaments or conference tournaments or regional tournaments. You just don't see them. So it becomes much more
hard.
Yeah.
I really think it's going to be because, I mean, the captains thought that it was hard before. Now you're just diving right into the hard stuff, right? I mean, the easy part I think was always filling those top 3, top 4, top 5. You still got some names out there. Top 6, there's still some. Now, all of a sudden, these final 10 rounds, you're just diving right into it. But there are some names I think that stick out that are first round or first pick overall. Do you know who your first overall pick would be?
Absolutely. It's an easy one.
Who is it?
Jake Gore.
Okay, me too. I thought I'd be the only one saying that. Everyone knows I love that kid. So
but I mean, he's you look at he's the highest ranked player available, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for Alex Hicks though.
You could. I think he's going to be first 10 picks, probably first 6 picks. I'm interested to see how regionalized this now becomes.
Yes, I totally agree.
Because I think the captains, like I was just saying, they're going to kind of know who some of these pros are if they're from their region because they play against them in regionals. They play against them in conference tournaments. They might even play against them in local tournaments. So they're going to know who they are. Now, obviously, they travel a lot, but like you're saying, once we're now getting past a lot of those people that you hang out with and play with all the time. So I think you start to see captains lean more towards their region. Now, if the captain, say like a Tanner Halbert, he's not from Las Vegas, right? He's probably going to pick more from the people he knows, which all of a sudden means he's taking out of Florida and away from the Southeast region. However, don't know. But like you get a person like a Yeti Irwan, for example, captain of the Colorado Timber. Once she gets past a few picks, does she start choosing people that she knows better? What regions will they be from? I think we're going to start seeing, especially if the captains are more regional, like, for example, Ty Lopez, Arizona Burn. I think you start seeing guys like that maybe stay a little more local and a little more regional with their selection. So we'll see. I'm curious to see if that plays out.
I totally agree with you. So I wrote down some names. So at the top, I'm with you. I wrote Jake Gore, but again, some names that really stick out. Alex Hicks. I think obviously he'll go early. Jack Gore, I'm sure someone will pick him up. Sure. Sammy Soto. Sammy's going to be available. I mean, Braden Wilson. I mean, some of these really young players that you're talking about. But so here's some other names that I'm really interested in seeing where they go. Okay. Mm-hmm. I was just looking at some PPRs from last year and just some names that kind of stuck out to me who I've seen before. Brandon Jones. Where does Brandon Jones go? I think, I mean, I could be wrong. I'd have to check in on his record during teams play. Brandon's a really good player, right? His PPR was just under 9.2 last year. So where does he go? Jeremiah Hector, his PPR was 9.6 last year. Tyler Parent, and then some other names I think are going to be fun to watch. Matt Sorrells.
Matt Sorrells is a very interesting pick.
Where is Matt Sorrells going to be picked up? He actually played really well in the qualifier. So that's going to be Austin Slowbomb. Where does Austin get picked up? His PPR last year, 9.3. I mean, hasn't had the same success at the pro level that he did in college, obviously. Matthew Stout, another guy, PPR 9.45. I think he had some really good and solid numbers from last year. Nate Voyer. I don't know. There's some interesting names. Tyler Parent, 9.34 PPR. I mean, there's a lot of these players where the stats are kind of same, and this may go into the point that you're making. Maybe it's going to turn into a total regional play. Yeah.
I think this is going to be obviously the first 2 rounds, year of the rookie. I think it's going to be all U18s and rookies. Matt Sorrell's being a little different. I don't think you're going to see some of those names you're talking about selected until we get deeper. I think, especially the first round, I was on ACL Live talking with Trey. Trey showed his first round of his mock draft. I think he's got 9 U18s in the first round.
I mean,
it's going to be mostly that and mostly rookies because you're getting a chance to select.
Or will there be somebody with a different philosophy? Will there be somebody who goes away from that and goes to some of these names that I was talking about with a bit more experience? I don't know.
I think you're going to want your best player. And no offense to anyone, I think you're going to want to go for what they consider to be the most talented player at times. Now, I agree with you. You're going to want to find players that can fit in with the 6 that you already have, right? But if that talent level is deemed to be a fairly decent difference between that talent level, I think you might see. I'm with Trey on this. I looked at Anthony and Wally's first round mock draft. I mean, I think it's going to be heavy U18 and heavy rookie. At least the first round. I think you get a little bit deeper. Then you're talking about, all right, how do we fit now? How do we fit? Does it stay regional? Because, I mean, think about like Matt Sorrells. I think that's a great name to bring up. You've got Alex Rawls as the captain, of the Florida Freeze, but they've got the 16th pick. Does Matt Sorrells last? Because if he's still there, I'd be willing to bet all the money on the planet that he's selected by the Florida Freeze as many times as he's played with those guys on the dock and all that. I mean, he's going to be in that. He's a first round selection, right? Yeah. But it's just how far does he get down? It's interesting, but I would see the Gore twins going really early, Alex Hicks going early. I think we're all putting a lot of pressure on Sammy Soto, by the way, because they released our awards, our preseason awards, right? Who we think is going to be there at the end. And I believe you, me, and Michelle all put Sammy Soto as our rookie of the year. A lot of pressure, right? It's a lot of pressure. Now, the Texas guys have been barking this dude for a while. I've seen him play. First time I saw him play, like more than just one match, and I saw him play over a day, I thought to myself, that's a top 30 player. Now, do nerves get in the way? Do, just the fact of the depth of talent get in the way? I don't know. But, I mean, I love the fact that, like, you've got a Jeremiah Ellis out there that's going to be a rookie this season who's not one of the U18s, who has been successful in other areas. I think that's, like, he posted all of our selections and just said, it's given him fuel to the fire. I love it. Right. I love when we do stuff like that. I love when people get either it makes them feel better about themselves because we're talking about them, or they're mad that we're not talking about them. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But I love that it gets used as fuel that way. So when I'm looking at some of these mock drafts, it's so U18 friendly. Right. There's just so many under 18s, because think about it. If we could have had U18s last year, they would have gone early too. Right. So I think it's great that we finally found a way to get the kids involved, because for the folks at home that don't get to see, I mean, there's so much talent that's under 18 years of age. It's absolutely insane.
And it is the future of the sport for sure.
100%.
All right. How about on those mock drafts? Where do you see the name James Baldwin pop up?
This is only first rounds. Yeah. So
okay. That's another one I'm wondering. Like where is he taken amongst all these names?
Does James end up in Virginia? Like, see, a lot of these names I think will be regionalized. You've got the Virginia Cutters.
I totally agree. I think
Carolina
totally
Coasters. Right, like, does he end up there? Like, to me, something tells me one of those two teams will pick him up. He just fits, right?
Yeah.
He fits that vibe. So I don't know. But some of these older names, it is very curious, right? Like,
yeah.
Do you
Where do
take
they go mixed in with all the other?
And how many of them take
all the other kids?
Look, they get offended by what we say or don't say. These are their own peers that have left them out of these top 5 selections, right? So how angry does that make some of them? Like, hey, all right, so you don't think I'm one of the best, 6 players on your team? Fine. I hope I get picked up by someone else and I get a chance to blast you, right? I mean, I'm interested to see how that plays out. Like, how many end up on completely different squads? I'm curious to see that. Or is someone kind of playing the game like, you know what? I think I can get them in the draft, but I don't know if I can get these guys. So I'm going to hold these and cross my fingers that I get them back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's fun. That's why it's fun for us.
Yep. Well, I totally agree on the youth. The youth is going to dominate early. I would guess, and regionality. I think both those. All right, we gotta get moving. It seems like we always run out of time here for on off and in. So you ready to get it going?
Yeah. Yep. Hey. Yeah. There you are.
Right.
I thought you had frozen for a second.
Oh, I might have. My signal for some reason today is bad. I'm not sure why. Oh, you know what? I think I might know why. All right. On, off, and in. It's America's fastest growing, most popular podcast segment. So Bernie and I come up with it's kind of like hit or miss, or where we were right, where we were wrong type of stuff. So on the board is something that we think that we are right about, maybe trending to be correct about. Off the board is something we are totally wrong about, and something in the hole is something that we are just dead right about, that we talked about before. It's still true, and we nailed it. All right, ready?
Yep.
On the board first.
On the board. All right. So I cheated again because that's what I do. My on the board and my off the board are the exact same thing, but coming at it from 2 different angles, right?
Okay.
Teams will transform the game of cornhole. I think it still has the ability to be something that draws people in, especially when they make it so regionalized. The more regional we can make it, I think the better it will be. Right. And so I'm still, I think it's too far. We're too far out to say in the hole about teams, but I'm going to say the on the board part is, I think the more regionalized that we get, I think the tweaks that have been made as far as, now when you play a best of 7, it's not you get to 4, you win. It's all the games now count, just like a baseball series.
Right.
Right. Like, if you win all 3 games, it just goes to your overall record. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you win a best of 7, 5-2, all you've done is win 5 games, lose 2. Yep. Right. Obviously you won your series, but it's just we're not viewing the series in those ways until we get deeper. I love that. I love the tweaks. I think it still has an opportunity for the average fan to pull them in. And by pulling in the average sports fan, I think you can transform the sport. So it's still kind of my on the board.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with you. My on the board, and I touched on this a little bit last week, and we really need to kind of really deeply dive into this at some point. But I touched on it last week. DPR, I'm given the DPR stack. I really don't like that we use it as one of our major metrics when we're discussing the sport. I still think that it has a major flaw in it, where strength of schedule is not factored into it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So I, in my opinion, I give DPR a big ol' meh, and maybe even an UG. But here's another stat to keep in mind. And if you want to dive into this more next week, we can. I think, and this goes to what I've been talking about for a while. I think one of the biggest stats that I've found pouring through this entire Excel spreadsheet. Here are some names I'm going to give you. What do Matt Guy, Devin Harbaugh, Caleb Batson, Jacob Trzynski, Tony Smith, Jay Rubin, Cheyenne Bubenheim, Jake Gore, Kyle Malone, Mark Richards, Jamie Graham, Justin Burton Jr., Eddie Grindersleeve, and Chris Kingsbury, and Jordan Power? What do those names have in common? All of those names all finished top 25.
You didn't even give me a chance to answer.
I was going to say, in what stat?
It's PPR. It's PPR.
What's that?
PPR.
No. Nope.
No? What is it?
Bags on. So again, this is a deep dive, and we can do. I mean, this is like Anthony Ione stuff, right? If you look at the top players in the world, right? The top players in the world, every name I just gave you is amongst the lowest bags on the board percentage, which may seem strange, right? But the more that you look at it, and the more that you kind of chew on it and dive into the other stats, the more it makes sense. If you don't have bags on, where are they? I looked at the bags off, right? And I quickly eliminated bags off. All the top players in the world are between 2, 3, and 4% bagged off. I'm taking that out of it. So if the bags aren't off and they're not on, where are they?
They're in the hole. Yeah.
They're scoring. It's what I've been talking about from the very beginning. All these players are scoring. I'm not saying you can't block. I'm not saying you can't roll. I'm not saying you can't cut. I'm saying if you want to play a defensive game, you still need to score. And I thought that was a really interesting stat. But the top players in the world have the lowest bags on percentage, according to all the stats from 2023 season. So anyway, so that's my on the whole, because I've been talking about the importance of scoring, I don't know, ever since we started this podcast, probably. All right, ready?
Yeah. Off the board.
You like that? You like that or no?
I mean, I think you've talked about it a good bit.
But what about the bag? What about the bags on? I'm backing it up.
I like it. I'm with you. I don't argue. I mean, I think you have to be able to find ways to score. Scoring is what counts.
I think that was a good stat to show. That's
yeah. I like that one. My off the board, once again, teams will transform the game. I think we still have a very large number of professional players that have not bought into teams. They just, whether it's they want it to be more about them and them alone and maybe the other person they play with, and they don't want to get involved in a team type game. They never really played team sports. It's not their thing. I think we still have a heavy non-buy-in from a lot of professionals, unfortunately. And so that's why you see it. You see it when you talk to them.
Yeah.
You see it how they play. Like, there's not you just see it. And until that happens, it can't take the next step. So it can be tweaked. All these other things can happen. But until we get the players to fully buy in, it will never take that next step. So that's my off the board with teams.
I think that's a good one. And I did read in one of the releases, I think a couple of weeks ago, that I think 84% of the player incentive on the financial side is going to go towards actually the number of games that you win. So that could maybe help get some buy-in. The fact that you're winning money every time you win a game. So anyway, I kind of like that one. So my off the board, I gotta be quiet about this one, okay? Because I'm not sure who's listening. Yep. So Kathy is such a great sport, right? I mean, I can't tell you the number of football games that I watch on the weekends.
Sure.
And she's always right there, right? And she's always like, who are you rooting for? Who are we cheering for? And when I put money on games, she'll be like, I kind of let her in on the spread, and so she knows about Vegas. She's such a great sport, right? And so in turn, I like to kind of do some things that she likes to do. But oftentimes, when she wants to do something, I'm like, God, really? Yeah. But I literally think she's like, she's probably listening to this outside right now. So one of those times was, and this is just me being an asshole, because normally when she like drags me to something, I end up having a terrific time. I'm not kidding. Normally I'm like, okay, whatever. And then we go, and it's awesome. So she's been wanting to try this little breakfast place called Three Little Birds. I'm like, really? 3 Little Birds? Are you going to take me to a place called 3 Little? Fine. Like, why can't you just go and have tea with your girlfriend, the 3 Little Birds, right? So we go to 3 Little Birds for breakfast. It apparently has good breakfast. I'd never heard of it. We went there. Amazing.
You know what that's from,
I'm
right?
so far off. No, I don't know what it's from.
It's a Bob Marley song.
Oh, now I love it even more.
Yeah, man.
Wow. So she took me in there. Greatest breakfast ever. So 3 Little Birds, if you're listening, they're not. If they were, I'm sorry. Totally off the board on that. Incredible breakfast. We've been back twice now in the past week. Had the French toast yesterday. Amazing. It was so good. So I was off the board on that. All right, that's it for this week. We're done. All right, we're done. In the hole. Yeah, well, we got 45 seconds.
I'm a terrible fantasy player. Always been a terrible fantasy player. Always will be a fantasy player, because I don't care about stats. I know it makes me crazy. In our sport, I think you need it a little bit more, but in team sports, I just don't follow all the guys that are great. I mean, you can have a great wide receiver stat-wise who's on a team that wins 3 games. Yeah. So, I'm a terrible fantasy player. That's my in the hole. And I've always
you're in the hole.
Yeah, I've always known it.
All right. My in the hole is scoring. Baseball viewership is up 7% according to Nielsen ratings. Attendance is up 9%, over 4 million fans. 18 to 34 is up. Social media is up. Everything is up because scoring is up. Scoring is up big time in baseball this year. Everyone loves it. Everyone loves scoring. Everyone loves offense. And it just is, it's better for everybody. All right, dude.
All right, man.
Sorry to drive you nuts this week.
It's all good.
Thanks for listening to our rant.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Have a good week. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, man.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.